بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. So last week we went over entrepreneurial characteristics, and what we mentioned is that you can have the best information, you can have the best tools and the best systems to start a business, but ultimately you are the one who is in control of those systems. You are the one who is managing those systems and tools. And if you are not mentally prepared, or you don't have the characteristics, if you are not the person who is capable of running the business, then the best tools, the best systems, the best operations, none of that matters. So that's why we covered entrepreneurial characteristics last week and why it's so important and integral to starting or being a successful entrepreneur or a business owner. Your business is a reflection of who you are. Secondly, we went over different business planning models and tools. We covered different planning structures, and the main point was going from the traditional. There are two main points: going from the traditional or the more common route of just writing down your goal, to taking your goal, writing it down, and then creating a plan of how you're going to achieve that goal. So we have a result goal, that this is how much money we want to make. Our results is that we want to make $500,000 at the end of the year. But this is the process of how we're going to achieve that result. So that was the first thing that we went over, that there is a target that we want to accomplish, and then there is a plan, a daily plan, a weekly plan, a monthly plan, a quarterly plan, action items that we're going to do or take in order to accomplish that result. The second thing that we covered was going over or shifting from this 12-month mindset to 3 months, 90 days. So going from, I have to do XYZ by the end of 12 months, we focus on what can I accomplish in the next 90 days, because it gives us a shorter time frame, it creates more urgency, and it's much more relevant. When we give ourselves time that we have all the way until 12 months, that's how much time we're going to take. If you've ever started something, or let's say, for example, you have a task you need to do, and that task for work is due 2 weeks from now. Most people, they're not going to finish it right away. I would say 90% of the people are going to wait till the last 2 days, and they're going to start and they're going to finish it. So it's not that we needed 2 weeks to finish it. Rather, it's that we didn't have that sense of urgency. And in fact, there is something called, I don't remember the exact name, I think it's called Parkinson's Law. And Parkinson's Law is that you take up the amount of time that you give yourself, essentially. So if you give yourself 2 hours to do something, you're going to take up 2 hours. But if you were to say to yourself, I'm going to finish this in 1 hour, most likely you can finish it in 1 hour. So instead of planning 12 months out, we plan 90 days out. And that's much more tangible. It's much more relatable. It creates much more urgency. And the best part is, when you're doing things in 90-day increments, you get to test and try things out. You do something for 90 days, it didn't work, you shift your plan. As opposed to you make a plan for 12 months, and then you have to wait 12 months to now try something else, right? So those were the things that we went over last week. We went over entrepreneurial characteristics, business planning models, and tools. So today, what we're going to do is, inshallah, we will talk a little bit about how to now track your progress. So last week, we went over the business models and tools. We also went over the SWOT analysis, how to kind of measure yourself and your business, finding out your strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. So now let's say you've started your business. How do you now track your success? How do you say to yourself, that based on my productivity today, I can expect to hit my goals 6 months from now or 12 months from now. So that's what we're going to talk about today, inshallah. So the first thing that we want to cover is something called KPIs. You may or may not have heard of this. This is a popular business acronym, Key Performance Indicators. That's what KPI stands for, Key Performance Indicator. What exactly is a KPI? This is what you use to track your performance and progress. And it helps you determine whether or not you are focused on the right activities. So a KPI must be well-defined and measurable. It has to be aligned to your business strategy, applicable to your business area, actionable and clear. A key performance indicator, or KPI, is a value used to screen and measure the performance of an activity. All right. So going back to our example of losing weight or building a building, right? If we were to say, what are our KPIs? We said that KPI is a well-defined and measurable. It's well-defined and measurable, and it's actionable and clear. A KPI is there to help you determine whether or not you're making progress, what your performance looks like. So if we're talking about losing weight, and we say by the end of 90 days, we want to lose 10 pounds. Our KPI will be the number of workouts we do. Based on how many workouts we're doing, we can expect to achieve a certain amount of weight loss. Based on the number of steps we take on a daily basis, we can expect to lose a certain amount of weight. Likewise, the number of hours that we work or the number of bricks that we put down is a KPI, a key performance indicator, that will determine how quickly we will finish that project. So when it comes to our business, we look at KPIs such as the number of calls and appointments. You know, if you are in sales, and as we know that every single business has a sales department, we look at the number of calls to the number of appointments. How many calls does it take for us to set one appointment? So if it takes us 10 calls, or let's say, actually, it requires, so in the real estate industry, depending on who you call, for every 100 calls, for 100 numbers that you dial, you can expect to speak to about 5 people. So and there's so much technology out there. For our real estate business, what we use is we use an auto dialer. So we take all the numbers, we put it into the system, and we just press start. And then it starts dialing the numbers for us. It dials the number, and then if someone answers, then we talk. If no one answers, it hangs up, goes to the next number. So it saves us time from having to dial. So let's just take that example and say in 1 hour, we are able to dial 100 numbers. Now, based on my own numbers that we track for our business, for every 100 numbers that we call, we speak to about 6 to 7 people, right? So that's only like 6%. From the 6 to 7 people, 1%, one person usually says we're interested in working with a realtor to sell or buy a property. So those are our key performance indicators. The number of calls, the number of contacts made, and the lead generated. So in our business, if we were to say we want to sell $500,000 in real estate, then we go back to how many calls do we have to make. So we can say either we need to make 100 calls every single day, or we can say we need to make 1 hour of calls, right? But the point in case is that a key performance indicator is there to show us and guide us whether or not we're getting closer and closer to our goal. So whenever you see that I'm not achieving my goal, you go back to these key performance indicators. Well, are you calling 100 people every single day? If you've been doing that and you're still not hitting your goal, then that probably means that we need to increase from 100 calls to 200 calls or 300 calls every single day. On the other hand, if you go back and you see, wow, I am, more than what I expected, then maybe we don't need to call 100 people. Maybe we just need to call 50 people every single day. But the point over here is when you have KPIs, things that are well-defined and measurable, like 100 calls, that's measurable. How many people did you speak to? That's measurable. When you have these things in place, you're now able to determine and track and go back to the root cause or the root problem of why you're not seeing the success you're seeing. So let's say, for example, someone has an online business. What are their KPIs? Their KPIs are things such as how many website visits. You can have a great product online for sale, but if no one is visiting your website, you're not going to sell it. So website visits versus clicks. These are key performance indicators that will help you determine how many sales you're going to make. So if we look at the numbers for someone who owns a website online business, let's say they sell phone covers on their website. And after tracking their numbers for about 6 months, they come to the conclusion that they need 10,000 visits every single month. And 10,000 visits equals 1,000 sales. They can even break it down even further. 10,000 visits, 5,000 clicks, and 1,000 sales. Those are our KPIs. So if at any point the person says, I'm not hitting my goals, then most likely it's because they have a lack of website visits. How do I now increase my website visit? Maybe I need to run some more ads online. But you get the point now that we're able to pinpoint the problem, as opposed to saying, I'm not making enough sales. Is the product the problem? Is the website the problem? What is the problem? Now you have some sort of tangible information and evidence to help you increase your business. So that's the importance and significance of KPIs. Number of products returned. So this is an example of the quality of your product. If you see that on a monthly basis, a lot of your 10% of your products are being returned, then that's an indication that you have a quality assurance problem. So how do we now take 10% and bring it down to 5%? So that's a KPI. Number of complaints filed. Let's say, in the masjid, every single month, you get 20 complaints on average. How do we bring 20 complaints down to just 2 complaints? So that's a KPI. So we track all these things, and then we figure out how do we bring these numbers down, or how do we bring these numbers up to give us the desired result. So that's a KPI. So for every business that you're running, you need to determine what your KPIs are going to be. Sometimes it's not going to be straightforward and clear. So other times it's going to be very clear, like just how many numbers are you dialing and how many people are you talking to. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit more convoluted. But the point in case is, for any business, you need to ensure that you have a set of KPIs that you can track and measure, and you are measuring and tracking so that when problems arise, you're able to go back and figure out a proper solution. The next thing we want to talk about are lead and lag measures. This is very similar and in line with what we just spoke about. So your lead and lag measures are essentially your KPIs versus your past results. So a lead measure is your key performance indicator, and a lag measure is your past result. If you look at this chart over here, this explains it very well. And it gives us a non-business example. The example that they give over here is for weight loss. So a lead measure, or in other words, your KPI, is going to be something that measures, something that leads to the goal or influences the outcome. So a lead measure or a KPI is something that leads to the goal, influences the outcome. In this case, it's your diet and exercise. The better you are with your diet, the better you are with your exercise, the more frequency of exercise, the quicker you're going to get your result. The lag measure, on the other hand, is the actual weight that's lost. So measures the goal, shows what happens. So for example, for example, over here with the weight loss, every day when you step on the scale to weigh yourself, that is a lag measure. That's showing you your current progress. Let's say a person weighs 200 pounds and they want to get to 175. Every day they stand on the scale and they see their weight. Their weight is their lag measure, showing where they are currently. In other words, a lag measure is showing them the results of their effort. So every day, as this person is standing on the scale, they are seeing a real-time feedback of their past efforts. So every day, on a daily basis, a person may not be able to see their weight loss, but on a weekly basis, they're going to be able to see their weight loss. In a different example, when it comes to business, if they're getting sales every single day, that's a reflection of their past efforts, of their lead measures. And the lead measures are going to determine what your lag measures look like. Does everyone kind of get? Yeah.
So just to clarify, lead measures are like the steps you take or your process to achieve some certain goal. And
yes.
the lag measure is like an indication of your progress, or like the result of those efforts.
Correct. So in very simple terms, lead measures are actions that influence the outcome. So in weight loss, what influences weight loss? How many times you exercise, what you're eating. So that's your lead measure. Lag measure is the actual result that you see. So your current weight. Okay. In business, it's going to be lead measure in business will be the number of calls you make, or the number of people you speak to. The number of calls you make, the number of people you speak to, the number of website visits, the number of clicks on your website, the number of views of your ad are all actions and things that influence towards your goal of how many sales you want to make. So the number of sales you've made is the actual lag measure. It's showing you whether or not your lead actions are effective. So going back to the weight loss example, if for the next month you weigh yourself and you're still at 200 pounds, then it's one or two problems. It could either be that you are not taking the right actions, like you're exercising and you're dieting, but it's completely wrong. The process itself is wrong. Or it could be that the process is right, but you're just not doing it. Or it could be that it's both. You're not doing it and the process is wrong, right? But when you start measuring these things, when you have certain metrics that you can use, and then so the point of KPIs, lead measures, and lag measures is to emphasize the point that your business needs to be organized into certain measurable metrics, and they need to be measured on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And that's where the operation side of it comes in. Remember, we spoke about how there's 4 elements to a business. There's the operation side. So as a business owner, you have to have an operations department, whether that's yourself or someone else, who is measuring and tracking all these numbers. That you own a small business, how many calls are being made? How many conversations are being made? How many sales are being made? What is your income? What is your expense? All these numbers are going to help you determine whether or not you're achieving your goal, what you need to do more of, what you need to do less of.
So this statistics is important. Even I'm a one-person business, I still need to incorporate this kind of KPI. Otherwise, I will not be achieving the results which I want. Otherwise, how else I'm going to monitor, right?
100%. It's about not only achieving your goals, but also being able to predict your outcomes. Even if you're a one-man business. So I'll show, let me give an example that I think will highlight the importance and significance of this. If we know that, well, let's do this. So recently I sat down with an agent who said that they want to make $100,000 by the end of the year by selling real estate. So we said, okay, we broke down a few numbers, and what we came to our conclusion was that if this person spoke to 5 new people every single day, Monday through Friday, that means 25 new people every single week about real estate. And out of those 5 conversations, they got at least one person who agreed to engage with them in real estate either now or in the future. Then by the end of the year, they would have made $100,000. So why is that so important? That's important because now we know every single day, this agent just needs to speak to 5 people. And that can be done in different ways. They can spend 1 hour making phone calls and speaking to 5 people. They can go and door knock on 5 people, 5 homes. They can go to an event and speak to 5 different people. But now it's removed so much confusion, and it's made something that is confusing into something so simple that, hey, if you just spend 1 hour every single day making the phone calls, you'll speak to 5 people and you'll get one person who's interested. And that one person, if they convert, eventually you'll make your $100,000. So it gives you the exact formula of how much time you need to invest in order to achieve a certain outcome.
So this also includes any demographics. Okay, I cannot just go talk to students.
Yes.
Rather, I will go to people who are in 20s, 30s, that kind of, in your example, I'm talking about.
100%. So there's much more detail to it. Who you're going to be speaking to, what the source is, and then even the lead to close conversion, meaning just because one person said they're interested in real estate and engaging in a real estate transaction, what is the chance, what is the percentage that that person is actually going to do it? Maybe it's only a 10% chance. So we actually need to have 10 people who say we're interested in engaging in a real estate transaction in order to do one deal, right? So there's more numbers to it, but the point in case over here is when we track your lead and lag measures, when you track your KPIs, you start, those are the diagnostics of your business. That's how you can monitor the health of your business. If you don't track these numbers, there's no way to monitor the health of your business. Just like how we weigh ourselves, we track our blood pressure, our sugar levels and whatnot to determine our health. In order to determine the health of your business, all these numbers and metrics need to be in place. did you have a question, brother?
No, I was gonna say like, so the lead here is the number of customers that you need
Yes,
to call per day,
yeah,
and the lag here is.
the actual result,
The actual result is when you
the
have a
sale.
successful.
Exactly. So the lead is what you do to influence the outcome, and the lag is the actual outcome itself. Okay, so at the end of every month, the number of sales that we've made is the lag. What we're going to do moving forward to influence that result is the lead. Okay. And then they give you different examples over here. Number of sales appointments, that's the lead measure. So the more sales appointments you have, the more new customers you're going to get. The more website traffic you have, the more e-commerce sales you're going to make. And the next one is an interesting example. The more safety training you have, the less on-site injuries you're going to have. So even when running a masjid, there should be certain metrics we use. So for example, if we were to say, let's go back to the number of complaints. If we are getting every single month 20 complaints, and let's say the nature of those complaints are, it's too hot in the masjid, then it's a matter of bringing down the thermostat or increasing the AC. By doing that, if the number of complaints go down, then what we've done is effective. If the number of complaints regarding it being too hot still persist, then maybe the AC system is broken, right? So we track all these numbers. Another thing that could be is, this is so we said there, figuring these numbers out can be easy or difficult. A difficult example is the number of people who come to the masjid. How do we increase it? What are the actions that we can do to increase it versus the outcome of why people actually don't come? So that is a very convoluted and very difficult metric to measure because of so many different aspects. But then there are some things that are a little bit more easier, you know? So, but the point in case is, when you have a business, you have to spend time measuring these numbers and tracking these numbers. As boring as they are, you need to do it. Many times there are systems and tools that you can purchase that, here's another really great example. Your personal expenses. Let's say you want to save $10,000 by the end of the year. On a weekly basis, you're saving $50. So on a weekly basis, the act of saving $50 is your lead measure. That's the action you're taking to get to the result. And then at the end of every month, the $200 that you've saved is the lag measure. It's the result that you are seeing as it's the result of your actions over the last 4 weeks. So after 3 months, we've only saved how much? $600. If we're saving $50 a month, we've only saved $600. So now we can say, after 3 months of doing this, we've only saved $600, but my goal is to save $10,000. So what do I need to do? Either I need to increase how much money I'm saving on a weekly basis, or I need to bring down my goal and make it in line with what's feasible for me. So if I say, hey, I can actually save a little bit more, so let's bump it up from just $50 to a higher amount, that is going to be in line and allow me to hit my $10,000 goal. So you see how after 3 months of tracking our numbers, we were able to make certain adjustments. And now, alhamdulillah, by the end of the 12 months, we were able to hit that $10,000 mark. But if we just kept on saving $50 every single month without ever tracking, then by the end of the year, we would have only had how much? If it's $200, $2,400, which is very, very short of 10,000. So that's the value of lead measures, lag measures, and KPIs. So in conclusion, there are a lot of tools out there that can help measure all these things. There's tons of tools that are out there. Some of the tools that we use measure the number of phone calls that we make. They measure the number of times that we actually log into the system. It measures the amount of times people click on our website. It measures the amount of open rate for our email blasts. It measures how long people spend on our website. It tracks how many text messages we sent out. It tracks how many hours or how many minutes that we spend on the phone calling, and also tracks how many minutes we spend talking to someone. So there's a lot of tools, alhamdulillah, because of technology, that are out there that track so many different numbers. So it's now our job as a business owner to look at these numbers and determine what can we tweak, what can we increase or decrease to help us accomplish our goal. All right, so that's that. And the larger your business gets, the more time you're going to need to dedicate to this. And that's why operations is a whole different sector. Initially, if you're a small business owner, you can do it on your own every week. You do it, just for example, our own personal finances. Every Sunday, I sit down and track our personal finances. But for our business, we may have someone that we hire to track those numbers for us. So that's the point of it. Okay, now before we move on, any questions from the audience, anyone? Okay. So now we're going to get into, inshallah, marketing and sales. Marketing and sales, they're two different things. Marketing, the purpose of marketing is to draw attention and raise awareness of your product and service. So you can have, let's say, the best juice, but no one knows about it. No one knows that you are the best juice maker in Mount Holly. So the purpose of marketing is to raise awareness and draw attention to your product. Now, there are different types of marketing, and these are not specific terminologies. If you type in direct marketing or indirect marketing on Google, you're going to get a ton of different examples or different conflicting definitions. But for the sake of our class over here, we're just going to say direct marketing is outbound marketing, and I'll explain what that is, and indirect marketing is inbound marketing. So direct marketing is whenever you as the business owner reach out to a targeted list. For example, our class over here that we're hosting, did we put up a billboard for it, or did we send out messages to very specific people? We sent out messages to very specific people. That is direct marketing. It's outbound, right? We found a very select group of people and we gave them the message. Indirect marketing, on the other hand, is more like where you set something up and then people come to you. So a form of indirect marketing is we put up a poster or we put up a billboard and then people contact us. So to make it very easy, direct marketing is where we contact people proactively, and indirect marketing is where people contact us. Another way to understand it is, for example, fishing versus hunting. When we're fishing, we throw a fishing rod into the water and we wait. That's indirect marketing. Indirect marketing. Direct marketing is like hunting, where you go, you search around for whatever the animal, and then you hunt it down and you kill it. So that direct and indirect marketing. Another example is, now both of them have their pros and cons, and both of them are necessary. Both of them are needed for effective marketing, so to say. Go ahead.
Sorry, so in the case of like, say you're a real estate agent,
Hmm.
when the person contacts, I guess, 100 people's phone numbers regarding a property, is that an example? Would that be direct marketing?
That's direct
Because
marketing.
they're, like, they know that a lot of those people are on a targeted list of people who might potentially be interested in acquiring properties.
Yeah. That's direct marketing. Versus, let's say, Apple posting up a billboard. So effective marketing, we're going to get to that. So both direct marketing and indirect marketing have their pros and cons. Usually it's the larger brands where the brands are already recognized that do a lot of indirect marketing. You don't really see Apple salespeople calling you and saying, hey, do you want to buy the latest Apple phone? What Apple right now, it's crazy when you think about it. Apple owns, I think, half of the market share for mobile phones, and then all the other 100 different companies own the rest 50%. So Apple's problem right now is not to increase their market share, rather it's market share retention. So all the billboards, all the commercials, all the advertisements that you see is market retention. It's to foster brand loyalty. So when a person who owns an Apple device drives down the highway and they see an Apple billboard, they're like, yeah, that's my company right there, right? That billboard is not going to change or convert an Android user to an Apple user. Rather, that billboard is more targeted towards developing brand loyalty. Hey, I see Apple everywhere. I can relate to them, right? So that's a form of indirect marketing. Generally speaking, for small business owners, direct marketing is the best. Why? Because most small business owners don't have a brand that is so recognizable where they can just put it up and people are going to say, yep, I recognize that brand. Indirect marketing is great for things like Nike, Apple, IBM, Microsoft, large, big companies. Another distinction is that direct marketing is usually cheaper, much more cost effective, but it requires more time. Whereas indirect marketing might be a little bit more expensive, but it doesn't cost as much time. So I'll give you an example, real estate related. You can either spend time direct marketing, which is making phone calls, proactively reaching out to people, or you can put up a billboard, right? We can put up a billboard and that's a form of indirect marketing. But for a small business owner, chances are making those phone calls and reaching out to people is going to be much more effective than just putting up a billboard, a form of indirect marketing. Likewise, finding a neighborhood and sending them postcards. That's a form of direct marketing with an element of indirect marketing as well. So let's say, let's use the example of postcards. We find a neighborhood that has 100 homes in there, and we send all the 100 homes postcards saying, do you want to sell your home today? That's direct in the sense that we're targeting one neighborhood, but it's also indirect in the sense where we're not really engaging with that individual right there and then. So how can we make that a little bit more direct? we can only focus on people who have lived in their home for 5 years or more. Because usually after living in their home for 5 years, people move. If someone bought their home last year, the chances of them moving is going to be highly unlikely. So out of the 100 homes, we realized that 25 homes were purchased last year, and therefore we're not even going to bother with them. So we're just going to mail out to 75 people that these 75 people are our targeted list that we need to direct market to. All right. Effective marketing requires knowing who your buyers are and where they are. So this is, Brother Sahil, this is what you were talking about, that we're not just going to go and call a bunch of teenagers and say, do you want to buy a home? We need to know if our marketing is going to be effective. We need to know who our buyers are. Okay, for buying a home or selling a home, you have to be a homeowner. And usually, what are your demographics? Likewise, what are your demographics for buying a home? If you're in the business of selling clothing for teenage boys, then that's your demographics. So part of effective marketing is knowing who your buyers are. For this class, we're not going and putting up posters in Wawa because our demographics are not there, but we are advertising it to our masajid because that's where we're going to get people who are interested and where they are. So you need to know who they are and where to find them. So we're targeting Muslims, and you can find them in the masjid. So you go and post up posters in the masjid, or you make announcements where you send an email blast to the masjid masjid community. So you need to know that. Just throwing up a random poster or making or talking to random people is not going to be effective if they don't fit your criteria, or if you don't know where they are. All right. So that's marketing. Sales, on the other hand, is different. The purpose of sales is to turn potential buyers to actual clients and customers. So the objective or the purpose of marketing is to draw attention to your product, and sales is to take those interested people and turn them into actual clients and customers. So, for example, let's say you have a website. You have a website that sells shoes. You're running ads for your website. People are coming into your website. When people come into your website and then they turn into a client, that's the process of sales. Likewise, you speak to 10 people who are interested in real estate, but then now you have to convert them into an actual client. So sales is the purpose of turning potential or interested individuals into actual clients and customers. Just because the person has expressed interest, or just because a person is aware of your product, doesn't mean that they are now your customer or client. All right. Effective selling revolves around understanding the client's needs and wants and helping them decide whether or not your product or service makes sense for them. Just because a homeowner knows you are a real estate agent doesn't mean that they're going to be your client, number one. And number two, it doesn't mean that your services are of value to them at this point. What if they choose a different real estate agent? What if they just moved into the house last year and they have no thoughts of selling? So effective selling revolves around understanding your client's needs. Hey, I just moved into this house last year. I don't need your services. Versus the neighbor, I've been living in this home for 25 years, and now it's time for me to move, so I need your services, right? And this is where a lot of salespeople make mistakes, that they try to force people into becoming a client. Like, I don't need your service, or I don't need your product. No, but you have to have it. For example, juice. I don't drink juice because I'm not diabetic, alhamdulillah, but I'm just giving an example. I don't drink juice because I'm diabetic. No, but buy it for your family. No, I don't want my family to drink it. No, then buy it for your neighbor. I don't want to buy it for my neighbor. Then buy it from your family overseas. So effective selling revolves around understanding whether or not your client actually needs, the person you're speaking to actually needs your product or service. It's very seldom that you can force someone to do something that they don't want to do. You can dupe people, you can trick people, you can lie to people, that's a different thing. But to just force someone, it's highly unlikely. Sales requires a high level of communication skills, along with a lot of persistence and patience. And the reason why we mention this is because, again, as a business owner, especially a small business owner, a part of your time may be dedicated to making sales. If you have an IT business, you're not going to spend 24 or your entire working or business hours developing IT or whatever the case. A part of it needs to be going on and finding new clients to work for or new contracts. So a part of your business is going to be sales. So understanding that sales requires a high level of communication skills, along with a lot of persistence, patience, inshallah will help you understanding that you may need to speak to 20 people before you get one contract. And it's not, I spoke to 5 people today and no, everyone said no, so I'm just going to give up now, right? So that's that. And that's why there's such a high turnover in sales. That in real estate is, we sell properties, but it's a sales business. In real estate, there's an 87% turnover rate. That's like 90%. So in other words, 90% of the people who get into real estate sales, they leave within the first 5 years. 90% of the people who become a real estate salesperson leave within the first 5 years. And I don't think this number is any different for other sales jobs as well. Like if you look at sales jobs across any industry, the turnover rate is very, very high because it requires a lot of persistence and a lot of patience. And you have to be able to handle rejection. That just because someone says, no, I don't need your product, doesn't mean that they don't like you. And you just need to move on and find someone else that you can help. Oh, you had a question?
So I guess you said effective selling revolves around understanding the client need and want to help them decide whether or not your product service makes sense to them. So like in the case of say large or name brand organizations like Apple or something, they use like indirect marketing to because in part to do I guess retention of their existing customer base, and then maybe to attract the occasional person who's like coming from outside. So is part of the reason that companies like that are so effective is because there's not this sense of like forcing you to buy it. It's like, hey, you already know like our track record and the quality of our established products before. So like if you eventually have need for a new like laptop or cell phone or something, you know, like to come to us.
So your marketing is going to change over time. The sort of marketing that a small business does or a new business does is going to be very different from the type of marketing that an established, recognized brand is going to do. Apple's claim to fame when they first started was that we're different. Our product is intended for the average user. And all their commercials, all their advertisements were geared towards the normal person who was unique, be different. And they juxtaposed or they compared their brand to IBM or Microsoft, which was for commerce and business owners and at the office, right? So that's why Apple came out with all these funky colors and all this other stuff. And they were very successful in creating an identity with their product, that because I'm different, because I'm unique, because, you know, I think differently. That was their logo at some point, think different. So Apple is the product for me versus Microsoft or IBM, which is more for, it's boring, it's dull. You know, look at Apple's bright colors. This is for me. So the point in case their marketing is going to change from time to time. The sort of marketing that Apple does now is different from what it did 10 years ago. It may still have elements of it, but it's slowly changing, right? So to your point, there's a lot of different things that go into a company's success like Apple, but effective marketing is definitely one of those things. And the point in case is your marketing needs to change. So for example, in the career of a real estate agent, our marketing has to change from when we start versus when we end. When we're first starting, and we're going to come to this in the next slide, when we're first starting, we are focused on building our database. We are focused on speaking to as many people, introducing ourselves, and meeting as many new people as possible. But after you get to a certain point in your career and you have, let's say, 10,000 people in your database, now you just focus on how can I target my 10,000 people who already know me and continue to get business from them, right? So now our marketing strategy has changed a little bit. So let's look into the next one over here. So database and lead management. The database is where a business stores all their past and potential clients' contact information, right? In order to generate, repeat, and referral business, remarketing to your database is a very effective method. So like I was saying, as a small business owner, initially, you may have no one in your database, but after 5 or 10 years, you may have 10,000 people in your database. And now 80% of your marketing is directed towards retargeting your existing database and turning them into repeat clients and turning them into people who advocate for you and bring in new clients. So at the start of your business as a small business owner, 100% of your marketing efforts was going into meeting new people. 2 years later, you have 500 people in your database. 40% of your efforts goes into retargeting your existing database, and 60% of your efforts goes into finding new people. After another 3 years, your database is now 10,000 people. And now you're to the point where you can focus 90% of your marketing efforts into just retargeting the people who already know you and like you and trust you, right? So that's what happened to Apple. Apple started with no one in their database that they had to go and find clients and customers, to now where they own 50% of their market share, where now they have to just focus on keeping that market share, right? And then another effective marketing for them is also the way they've built their tools. I mean, the way they've built their products. The way I started using Apple products was I never liked the iPhone, but I liked their laptop. So I bought the laptop and I had a Samsung. And then I realized, oh, wow, I can text from my laptop if I had an Apple iPhone. So then the laptop got me to buy the iPhone, and then now I can't leave because it's so easy. Even if I get angry with the iPhone, I can't leave because it's connected to my watch, it's connected to my iPad, it's connected to this, and there's no escaping the ecosystem. Yeah. So that's another genius marketing tool that Apple is able to implement into their thing. But it's never the other way around, where you buy a Samsung laptop and you're like, oh, I have to buy a Samsung phone. I've never seen anyone do that. Okay, so if you now here's another very important part, which is part of your operations department, which is managing your database. Because if you ever sell your company, what are you doing? If you ever sell your business, you are selling the brand, the name, the systems, but most importantly, you are selling the database, the list of all the clients that have bought from you and their contact information. Because that is very, very powerful information that that a business can use in order to increase their sales. So if one of your goals is to sell your business eventually, you want to ensure that you have a database with everyone's information in it. And there are tools out there where you can easily do that. They're called a CRM, contact or client relationship management tool, a CRM. There's CRMs built for almost every industry. Salesforce is one of the leading, CRMs that are out there for businesses, but you store everyone's information in there. So if ever you were to sell your business, you sell a list of your database. So that's database and lead management. But inshallah, that's it for today. Does anyone have any questions?
CRM is management.
A client relationship management is something like that. Yeah, or customer relationship management. An example of that is like Salesforce. So you can take some of these principles or you can take some of these things here and implement it into the masjid. So what you can do is get an effective CRM and input every single person who comes to the masjid. And you can track their level of donation. And then the people you see that are frequent with their donations, you target them even more. You remarket to them. And the people who aren't really interested or don't give donations, you target them as well, but with different marketing tools or a different marketing message, so to say. Yeah. So the point in case is, although these are all business tools, but a lot of these things can be applied to nonprofit businesses as well. And some of these things can be also applied to our own personal lives as well. So that's that. Any questions from the audience? No, inshallah. If there's no questions, then inshallah we can wrap it up. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum.